Welcome to the Ride This Out podcast, where we talk about how to improve your mental health and strengthen your connection to nature and your community, all through one simple solution: the bicycle. My name is Zach Golding, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and mental health therapist. I'll be your host as we discuss the power of pedaling. Welcome into this week's session. I talked with Adam Malmanger from Minnesota. Adam has been riding his bike every single day since March 31st of 2019. So coming up on 5 years every single day. And he's been tracking it, taking amazing photographs. Give him a follow on Instagram. I will link to his Instagram page, but it's Escape W Me. So Escape with Me. And Adam talks about that mindset of how every time he gets on a bike, it's an escape from the world. It's kind of his motivation. It's to get out and see the sunrise or the sunset. So great stuff. I greatly appreciate him jumping on and sharing his experience and what keeps his motivation to keep this streak alive. If you want to ride every day for 5 years, cool. I support that. But, don't get discouraged if you miss a few days here and there. It's all about riding. It's all about having that fun time and just creating those opportunities and those moments for yourself. And I love Adam's mindset and his approach to keeping that positive mindset and kind of reframing, different things that he goes through and how the bike keeps him going, keeps him motivated. So great stuff. Like, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things. Follow and enjoy this week's session with Adam. All right, Adam, welcome into the podcast. I'm happy to have you. Thanks for taking the time. In fact, I was just thinking about it a year ago on Instagram. That's when I first started my Instagram, and there was the whole 30 days of biking thing that was going on. I just found out about that, and then I saw that you had tagged something on there. I came across your Instagram account. It was beautiful, amazing, so many great photos and everything. So I'm super happy to talk with you a little bit later, but yeah, if you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, how you got into biking, just all that good stuff. So go ahead.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Well, first off, thanks for finding me and having me, and I'm glad we can finally make this work out. But yeah, I'm Adam Malmanger, and I grew up on a dairy farm in a small town in central Minnesota, and currently I've been living up in Two Harbors, Minnesota, near Lake Superior for the past 7 years. I'm a former retail manager. Currently, I am a bartender / server and retail associate. But that's kind of the basics. So in other terms, I'm really just a boy with a bike who took a 30-day biking challenge and never stopped. Another way to put it too is I'm a photo journalist that's been covering the most important story of literally my life.
Yeah, and that's how I kind of ran across your stuff. The photos you take are just amazing. Have you always had an interest in photography, like as a kid, or is that just something that you kind of got into as you started biking more?
A little bit of both, because I think I've always kind of had like one kind of camera around, and like in high school, I would always bring the camera to, take pictures of my friends and that kind of thing. So it's just something that's developed, unintended, I guess, as it went. So
Yeah, no,
like to
absolutely.
take just
Yeah,
like take good photos, I guess, and kind of try to inspire people to be like, hey, like, why aren't you here? This is where you should be. Like, look at this beautiful thing. Why won't you want this to be your life?
that's then again, you do a great job of that.
Thank you.
So yeah, talk to me about the 30-day biking challenge. Did that start out there in Minnesota? Like, do you know much of the history about it, and how did you get introduced to it?
It started around 2010, I believe, by Patrick Stevenson in Minneapolis, and then I didn't learn about it for another like 9 years, I guess, because I didn't. I ended up learning about it through a group bike ride through my local bike shop, and so they introduced me to it, and I fell for it because it's just take a pledge that you're going to ride every day in April, and then post about it on social media with the hashtag 30 days of biking. So it was just like a good combination of biking and taking photos and, showing where the bike can take you. And once the 30 days was up, I had no reason to stop. I think Dan, the owner of the shop, kind of challenged me to keep going. Some of the ladies at the bank, like, well, same thing. Like, why would you stop? Like, why don't you keep going? And yeah, I just never looked back. And now we're almost at
Amazing. And
5 years
so,
straight.
yeah, almost 5 years. So how many? And you have a count on your Instagram, right? How many days are you at?
So today was 1,811.
1,811.
Biking
That's
outside every day.
I love it, man. I love it. That's amazing, and that's no small feat, especially where you live at, because some of your pictures and stuff, there's tons of snow up there. So how do you do it? How do you do it in the cold weather? What gets you out? What gets you moving all the time?
I'm definitely like motivated by the sunrise and or sunset. So that's definitely what will make or break whether I'm gonna hop out of bed and get on a bike right away, or if I'm gonna chillax a little and have my coffee first. But I don't know. It's definitely the sunrise motivation. They get me out of bed, I guess. But I don't know. It's literally like how I live my life is to ride a bike. Um, like it seems like a lot of people may or may not be stuck in like you wake up, you go to work, you come home, you're tired, you go to bed, and it's just like this routine that just never ends. And you gotta like live your life. And so it's nice to have an adventure every day. And that's something I would encourage is, make it a point to have a little adventure a day or do something good for you. And even if it's just an hour, that's only 4% of your day. So that's still, you got 96% to do whatever you have to do or what have you, I guess.
That's a great way to look at it. I'm curious, were you like into biking as a kid too? Like, would you ride around a whole lot? So yeah, how did you just kind of get into cycling in general?
I mean, it's definitely been a lifelong thing because I still have like my first trike sitting outside my house now, rusting away that my mom had saved from the farm. And can still remember getting like my first 20-inch Huffy and, watching dad drive up the driveway of the red truck. And then surprise birthday present was a bike. And, so that's how you get around when you're a kid. We lived on a farm. So we kind of had a longer driveway. So that's how you just go down and wait for the school bus and throw your bike in the ditch and ride it back up when you get home. And but yeah.
I love it. That's so cool. So as you got introduced to this 30-day challenge 5 years ago. What does your riding look like now? Is because I see a lot of pictures. Seems like you have an arsenal of bikes, a lot of different ones that you'll ride at different times, but some roads, some fat biking. Yeah, what kind of riding do you do?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of all. So as of a couple weeks ago, I just got bike number 6. So now I'm starting to like double up on some of them so that I can have a backup when something goes awry. Because when you ride that much, apparently you start to deteriorate your bikes. But yeah, I kind of started with like they called it like a hybrid bike, but it was something that's good for the path, a little bit off road, and then eventually I got a road bike so I could just get a zoom and go fast. And finally got a fat bike, even though that was something I thought that I would never do. Because it's funny, every time I come around that post on Facebook from 10 plus years ago, I was like, "Well, I'm crazy and I love to bike, but I'm never gonna be a crazy biker that bikes like on the snow." But that was kind of before I found out about fat bikes and how that works. But and picked up a mountain bike a couple years ago, and then have barely rode that. But I think that's about to finally change this year, so you got to kind of commit to that and find out ways to do that and have fun with that one. And then in between that, I guess I got a gravel bike, and now I got a second gravel bike. So.
I love that. And I say that a lot on this podcast. That seems to be a common theme. A lot of bike riders are very simplistic, but they have multiple bikes, for all the different rides, which is great. It's great. You have to have something for all the different things in life. You start to have a backup too.
Yep.
So out of all of those bikes, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, choosing your favorite kid. Which one did you say is your favorite? Which one would you like riding the most?
So I guess that would be the one that I call Princess, and that's my gravel bike. And if I had to have only one, like, even though I don't know that's possible in this state with the snow, it would be that bike just because it's versatile on the road and off the road and still got speed. So
Prince, I like how you name it. Princess, dude, that's very telling. That's good. That's great. Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of your pictures, a lot of your posts. You'll ride out on, is it like a pier or a harbor? There's a lot of water. It's just the way that you use the sunlight. It's magnificent. So yeah, tell us about
thank you.
yeah, those spaces where you ride out.
So that's the breakwater or break wall. We in Two Harbors they have like 1,000 foot ships come in and fill up with iron ore and ship out. So that's why that's there to kind of break the water up so they can get in and out easier. But it's just a quarter mile long, half mile, round trip. But it's just amazing to be like surrounded by the greatest of Great Lakes, Lake Superior. And then if you combine that with an amazing sunrise with pinks and purple clouds just hovering over you, you're just kind of in a whole nother world.
Yeah. Um, I'm curious what have been some of the coldest temperatures that you've encountered up there in Minnesota as you biked?
That'd be like a -20 wind chill, or the wind chill maybe could have been more, and it was like -20. But yeah, because that's why there was one time I was out there on like one of the rocks, and then some other photographer friend of mine, or met him after that kind of thing, but I took a photo and he put it up on one of the social media websites, and like everyone just went ham over it because it's just this like purpley gray super cold day, and then all of a sudden out of the woods like pops out this biker and they're like, what is he doing? And everyone went nuts. But then that led to another thing, like the Bike Alliance in Minnesota like saw the photo and they're like, we need to find this person, we need to talk to him. I'm just like, it's me, hello. But I don't know, it's just a cool experience. And but yeah, then I think like a year after that, when there was another like super cold -20 below day, and they're like, sending out all these warnings, like don't be outside, you're gonna get cold and you're gonna get frostbite and you're gonna get this. And I still went out and like got one of those pictures printed off too. It's just an amazing sunrise through all the clouds and the sea smoke that comes off the lake. It's I don't know, like I'm good for an hour out there type of thing before I get like super cold, and you're biking, so you're generating all this heat too. So yeah, it's cold, but I don't know, it's refreshing at the same time. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Everyone thinks I'm crazy.
No, I think that's a classic way to, within the therapy world, we call that reframing. You go through a hard situation, or one that a lot of people would say, there's no way I can do that. But I like how you say that. It's not necessarily cold. It's refreshing. It's fresh. It makes you feel alive. So
Right,
that's a good way to think about it.
for sure.
I love it. That's so cool. So, yeah, as you've been riding all the different places, do you primarily stick to one spot? Do you venture out into different areas of your state, or ride, different areas of the country? What have been some of your memorable rides that you've done?
For the most part, I stick around, kind of close to home, because either I gotta be somewhere at some point in time in my life. But there's a good amount of shoreline here in Two Harbors, so there's a bike path that just goes right by the shore, and so kind of every day I'll either be inspired by something that I see that I'm gonna stop, and that's where I'm gonna park the bike and take my photo, or otherwise I like to head on over to the town over and get on that bike path and bike down that one. But yeah, I've been trying to outgrow it a little bit. And last year I started trying to do pieces of the Masabi Trail, which is up further north than me, but still in the same state. And there's lots of good riding everywhere in the state. And just a couple of weeks ago, I went down to Minneapolis so I could, change my, like, I don't know what you want to call it, this going from the trees to the big city. And that was a good experience too. So, but and then a couple years ago, I did actually come down to Colorado because I was going to my friend's bachelor party, or we all went down there. And this was probably about 2 years ago, and was kind of worried if my streak was gonna end or not, because I didn't bring a bike with. So we were banking on being able to find one there, and we went kind of like out of peak tourism tourism season. So, but I was able to find a company that literally like brought me a bike to the cabin and was able to rent it for 24 hours so I could ride it on day one and then ride it the next day. And then he came and picked up the bike, and I think that day we got there in Colorado, it was like super hot. And then the next day it literally like snowed like 8 inches or something like that, or a couple inches or something. But so it was a good experience, and they were happy to keep my streak alive, and I was happy to keep it alive. But yeah, there's so much more out there that I'd like to see. And, eventually maybe I need to buy a van and go check it out.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's so true. So yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. I'm kind of interested. Has that been the closest you've been to the streak ending? Is when you went to Colorado? Or has there been other times where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, or I don't have a bike, or just logistically? Yeah, what have been some of those situations?
I think in that first year of doing it, there was a time where I was in a mood, so to speak, and it was literally like 11:45 at night, and I finally got up to do something about it and went and did it because I didn't want a bad mood or a bad attitude to be something that ruined my streak. And really, with only 15 minutes left in the day, like that was legitly the only time of day that I actually got to like, quote unquote live my life. Otherwise I would just like staying inside on the couch all day, doing nothing, being depressed because, who knows what I was going through that day or whatever, I guess. But it's just good. That's why it's a good drive to get you out there to live your life.
No, that's a great point. And yeah, and so that's, I talk a lot with people how, riding the bike improves their mental health or their overall wellness and stuff. And yeah, what would you say, riding the bike does for your mental state, for that emotional state? How does it improve your mental health overall?
I mean, it's what keeps me going because otherwise I'd be, you know, like I said before, it's like wake up, go to go to work, come back, go to bed, go to work, and get in that cycle. And I'd rather be in the cycle of being able to do something every day that I enjoy. And that's, I mean, that's what it's about. It's your life. You should live it. It shouldn't just be a robotic thing that you can't enjoy. So that's kind of why I like living in this area that I do, because then when I'm not on a time clock, then I can be on vacation and I can do what I want to do, I guess, when I want to do it. So
Yeah, just kind of taking control of it. I love that perspective of, again, you just kind of have this idea. This is the goal. This is the thing I want to do, and I think by doing that, it brings that life, right? It brings that, like you were saying, something to live for, and that energy in your life. That's amazing. It's really cool to see.
for sure.
So as you ride, as you do these different group rides and are part of different things, I've noticed. I haven't brought this up before we started recording, but in Minnesota, there seems to be a pretty big biking culture infrastructure, which honestly surprised me because of the weather. When I hear Minnesota, I just think of cold and snow and everything. But I would assume that, the summers up there are really lovely, and you get, again, the infrastructure up there is amazing. But yeah, talk to me about that. Have you been involved with much, groups or advocacy or anything like that?
A couple years ago, we were helping build, volunteering to help build some of the mountain bike trails or fat bike trails out in the demonstration forest up here in Two Harbors, just 8 miles out of town. So I've helped with that, a handful of times, but um, I haven't got into all the politics and that kind of thing, I guess. But it's nice to see how much, like even in Duluth, they put up some bike lanes or protected bike lanes. So that's really cool, and that's why it was kind of awestruck too when exploring like the Twin Cities area, Minneapolis, where they do have all those nice paths and they actually set up like roads, and it was just really cool to see that. I don't know if you want to call it community or whatever, but just the fact that everyone was riding a bike, or a lot more people were riding a bike. And there was actually a couple people that I stopped and they were talking to me, or that's how it starts always, because I'm considered the shy guy that doesn't talk to people. But somebody stopped me because I was taking a picture of my bike, and they're like, oh, you're just taking some glamour shots of your bike, like, yeah. And then I had to explain what I was doing. And I picked up the bike, and they welcomed me to the city, and I don't know, it was just really cool feeling, I guess, to like meet other people that are into biking.
Yeah.
That's definitely why I've like attended, or pushed myself to go to some group bike rides, just to find those people.
Yeah, and you say being the shy guy and stuff, that can definitely be a barrier for a lot of people. Like, I don't want to be around other people, but that's what I've noticed. The fun thing about biking is that doesn't matter how shy you are, you're out in the open. You're kind of vulnerable anyways, right? And then if there's
Right.
other people biking as well, it kind of opens up, that conversation and that community. That's those connections are deep and real. So that's amazing. That's great. So as far as your 1,811 days, is that what you said, right?
Yep.
What do you have a goal? Do you have like a specific day marker in mind, or are you just gonna go till the day you die? Like, where are you at with this?
I mean, preferably, because that's why too. Then I always have thought of it as like, oh, like I'd rather die doing something I love than than you know something else.
Yeah.
But I guess I've definitely been like chasing goals and upping goals. Because when I was still down in central Minnesota for the longest time, I had always wanted to do like 2,000 miles in a year. And for whatever reason, I never like pushed for it or felt myself accountable for it. But, I got over 1,000, but I never, did the math or did anything to make sure it actually like happened. And so 2018, prior to me riding every day, um, I just kind of, yes, had a situation where I became more free and realized that, hey, this is, no one is going to hold you back now. Like, you should do this. And I finally went for it, and I got my 2,000 miles in 2018 by the first week of November. And and then yeah, then when I got introduced to 30 days of biking and started biking every day as of March 31st, 2019, then the miles come a lot easier. So I had 2,700 miles that first year, and then I just kind of kept upping it from there, because in the next year, riding every day, for a full calendar year, then it was 4,000 miles, and then next year was 5,000 miles, next year was 6,000 miles, and then it was kind of like, well, how do you get 7,000 miles? And they're like, well, do that calculation. It's like, well, then just add 100 more miles for 10 months out of the year. And then I got 7,300 miles last year. And so then you would think that that means that this year would be 8,000, right? Well, this year, for whatever reason, I need to up the ante, because then there's a couple of milestones this year worth celebrating, I guess. And one of them would be 5 years of biking outside every day. And then it will also be my 40th birthday, I guess.
All right.
Come like the third week of September, that'll be day 2,000. So it just sounds like a bunch of cool milestones that I need to up my mile goal to 10,000 miles this year.
Like this year, 2024, you're shooting for 10?
2024 is shooting for 10,000. Quest for 10,000.
10K mark. That is impressive, Adam. That's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah, so apparently that averages out to 27 a day. But
Yeah.
and
What's
then
I mean, totally doable, right? Like, again, if you're riding every day, do you tend to do 27 a day, or is it kind of fluctuate, average out?
it definitely fluctuates. Because there was a day this year at one point I only did 2.5 miles for the day, because I came off like a long weekend or a long week of biking, and then ran into a long work shift or whatever, and that's all it was. But with 30 years of biking, if you just go around the block, that counts too. As long as you
Yeah.
get on that bike and pedal, that's what it's all about. And then that's where you can find yourself going like, oh, this is enjoyable now. I can go for longer. Um, but I've been doing pretty good with an average so far this year, because I know it's a Minnesota winter, but this winter has been not winter at all. There was maybe 3 weeks of snow and 1 week that was actually 20 below. But it's been very spring-like, but still in the mid 30s, I guess, for temperature wise. But so I've been racking up the miles and just hit 2,000 a couple days ago for the year already. And that's when it's kind of funny too, is something that I didn't think I could do, or it took me over 10 years to do in a year. I just did it in 72 days straight. Like, that's kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, well, I think it just shows the power of progression, right? Like as you
Yes.
slowly increase it and work up to those things and build that ability and that tolerance. Super impressive. Honestly, that's inspiring. I think that's because in my mind, sometimes I'll have mileage goals and like, I don't know if I'll be able to do that or not. But I think, the key of that is just that consistent, like you were saying, just keeping those days consistent and just riding as much as you can. I think it's
Definitely.
super cool. Yeah. So that was going to be, one of my last questions is someone's getting into biking or wanting to get more days in or being consistent, or however it might be, like what tips or what advice would you give to that person?
I would say definitely don't give up, don't quit. I feel like a lot of people that maybe want to try it would try it, and then the next day they'll be like, "Oh, my butt hurts. No, I'm never going to try that again." And I'd say you got to give it more of a chance than that, because you know, I always kind of think of it as like bowling. It's like, oh, it's fun to go bowling, and then the next day you're like, oh, this hurts. It's like, well, you haven't been working any of those muscles, or your body is not used to it. So you can't just give up. You got to keep going. But if you go and see a bike shop and see really cool bike people, they can get you set up on the right kind of bike that you want to have, and a bike that fits your body. So it'd be easier for you, and be better for you. But that's the main thing, is don't just give it a one time try and then throw it out the door. But also just to maybe find your ride spot, or your inspirational spot for where you're going to ride, and where it wants you to, where you want to go with it. It was funny too, because one of my friends had told me about how they like don't get on the elliptical that much, or it's not as fun, or that kind of thing. And it's like, well, yeah, that's because your elliptical isn't bringing you to the coffee shop, it isn't bringing you to sunrise, it isn't taking you on an adventure, it's just taking you nowhere, so to speak. Which I guess brings me into another thing, is like, I never thought of biking as exercise, I guess. So it's kind of a weird thing with that. But I guess lastly, the biggest thing for anybody would just be to challenge yourself, because you just might do what you thought was impossible.
Wise words, man. I love it. No, absolutely. Um, and yeah, you bring up some great, fascinating points there. But I think your Instagram handle, first of all, yeah, what is that? It's like Escape with Me, or what is your handle?
Yep, escape with me. So it's escape W me.
Yeah,
So the biking is definitely an escape. So
right. And I think is, like we're talking about this idea of reframing and that mindset, not really viewing it as exercise, but as an adventure, as an escape, as a way to kind of just improve overall. And yeah, I think it's fascinating, super inspiring stuff. I appreciate you again taking some time and sharing your wisdom, sharing your experiences. And I mean, I know that I'll be following along as you continue to rack up the days and the miles. Super inspiring, super motivating. So thanks again for being on, dude.
awesome. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it so much.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Adam.
Yep.